Have you ever had to choose between having everything you could ever want and having the one thing that truly makes your heart happy? Imagine living in a world where you have servants to do everything for you, from pouring your tea to driving you anywhere you need to go. You live in a beautiful palace, wear the finest clothes, and never have to worry about money or chores. Now, imagine giving all of that up for love. That is exactly what one Japanese princess did, and her story is one that will make you think about what really matters in life. She was born into a life of incredible privilege, but she felt like a bird in a gilded cage. The moment she met a simple, kind man who worked a normal job, she knew that true love was worth more than all the riches in the world. She walked away from her royal title, her wealth, and her luxurious lifestyle to become an ordinary citizen. But did she ever look back? Was it really a happy ending, or did she face struggles that made her question her decision? Let's dive into the amazing true story of Princess Nari, a woman who proved that love really can conquer all. Japan is a country that is famous for its old and beautiful traditions. It is a place where ancient customs are still very important today. One of the most important traditions in Japan is its royal family, which is called the Imperial House. This family is believed to be the oldest royal family in the whole world. Their history goes all the way back to the year 97 BC, which is an incredibly long time ago. For many, many generations, the people of Japan believed that their emperors were not just normal people. They were seen as the direct descendants of the sun goddess, who is named Amaterasu. This meant the emperor was thought to be part divine, not just a regular human being. However, a huge change happened after World War II. When Japan surrendered, Emperor Hirohito made a very important announcement. He said that he was not a living god, and he gave up his divine status. After this, the Japanese government created a new constitution that made the emperor a symbol of the state. This meant the emperor and his family had important ceremonial duties, but they had no political power. They could not make laws or tell the government what to do. They were there to represent the country and its people. The current emperor is named Naruhito. He became the emperor after his father, Emperor Akihito, decided to step down from the throne. This happened in April 2019. His father was getting old and his health was not as good as it used to be, so he chose to retire. Even though Emperor Naruhito has tried to make the royal family feel more modern and closer to the people, some walls still exist. These walls are about rules, like who can become the emperor and who the royal family members can marry. Over the last few decades, some members of the royal family have decided to break these old rules. Who were these rule breakers and what happened to them because of their choices? Let's keep going to find out. Let's talk about the man who started it all, Emperor Akihito. He was the 125th emperor of Japan, and he was the very first royal in history to break a huge tradition. For over 2,600 years, every emperor had married a woman from the noble class, another princess, or someone from a very high-ranking family. But Akihito did something completely different. He fell in love with a commoner, a regular girl who was not from any noble family. He met this girl whose name was Michiko while they were both playing tennis. It was a very normal, everyday way to meet someone, but for a crown prince, it was incredibly unusual. Because Michiko was not of royal blood, many people thought she was not good enough for the young prince. There was also another problem. Michiko had received a Catholic education, which upset many traditional groups in Japan. They believed that the future empress should follow the traditional Japanese religions. The engagement caused a lot of arguments and bad feelings. The person who was most against the marriage was Prince Akihito's own mother, Empress Kajun. She was very traditional and did not think Michiko was a suitable wife for her son. Reports say that she was very mean to Michiko, saying terrible things to her and making her and her children feel very sad and depressed. The Empress even went as far as sending Michiko away to Brussels, Belgium, in September 1958. She wanted to separate the couple forever, but a king from Belgium stepped in and told the emperor that if his son was happy, he would be a better ruler. This kind of advice helped change things. Finally, the Imperial Household Council, which is the group that makes decisions about the royal family, officially approved the engagement. It was a massive deal. The media went completely crazy for this modern-day fairy tale. It was the first time in more than 2,600 years that a commoner was going to become a princess and eventually an empress. Akihito and Michiko got married in 1959, and they showed the world that love could break down even the oldest and most stubborn walls. Akihito and Michiko had 3 children together. They had 2 sons and 1 daughter. Their oldest son is Naruhito, who is the emperor today. Their second son is named Fumihito, and their youngest child, their only daughter, was a girl named Sayako. Princess Sayako was born on April 18, 1969. She was a sweet little girl who grew up in a world of extreme wealth and tradition. For her education, she went to a very special school called Gakushuin. This school was made for the children of nobles and the royal family. Everyone expected that she would one day grow up, get married, and have to leave the royal family to become a regular citizen, which is a rule for princesses who marry commoners. When she was a young girl, starting around 1977, she would go on trips with just her mother. When she was in junior high school, she started learning a traditional Japanese dance called buyo. She even performed this dance in public at a big theater in Tokyo. Her mother said that Sayako was born a couple of weeks before she was expected, and that she was a very sweet and gentle child. As a child, she loved being outside in the gardens of her home, Tagu Palace. She grew up in a luxurious palace where dozens of servants waited on her hand and foot. They did everything for her, including the simple task of pouring her tea. Because of this, she had no idea what normal life was like. She had never taken a train or bus, and she always traveled around the city in a big car with a personal driver. She was known for being very easygoing and not easily bothered by things, which is why her father lovingly called her Miss Don't Mind. Even with all her privilege, her mother, Empress Michiko, has said that Princess Sayako sometimes felt trapped and restricted because of her position. Even though she had this royal life, she always had the full support of her family. And whenever her parents were busy, the palace staff took good care of her and helped her with everything she needed. In 1988, she started college at Gakushuin University, where she studied Japanese language and literature. She graduated in March 1992. A year later, her grandfather, the emperor, passed away, and her father, Akihito, became the new emperor. After she graduated from college, Princess Sayako did not just sit around the palace. She got a job as a research assistant at a place called the Yamashina Institute for Ornithology, which is a fancy name for a place that studies birds. She only worked 2 days a week, but she was the very first Japanese princess to ever earn a salary. She was actually a working woman. As part of her job, she helped write reports about the birds she observed around the Imperial Palace. She especially liked watching kingfishers, which are colorful birds that live near the water. Besides her job, Princess Sayako also had many royal duties to perform. She was an adult member of the imperial family, so she represented Japan on official visits to other countries. She went to 14 different countries, and she traveled to 8 of them all by herself. For example, in November 1995, she went to Brazil to celebrate 100 years of friendship between Brazil and Japan. She also did a lot of charity work. She was very involved in helping train and adopt guide dogs for people who could not see. On top of all this, she was a very close confidant for her parents. She gave them a lot of emotional support and was always someone they could talk to and rely on. It was during this busy period of her life that she met a man who would change everything for her. She had seen how much her parents loved each other, and their relationship had a huge impact on her. She learned from them that love was the most important thing in the world. She decided that when she was ready to get married, she would only marry for love. She did not care that the royal family usually had arranged marriages. She was ready to break the rules. How did she meet the man of her dreams? Where did their love story begin? You really do not want to miss this part. The love story of Princess Sayako and Yashiki Kuroda started during her university days, but they didn't actually get together until much later. Yashiki Kuroda was an urban designer who worked for the government of Tokyo. In 2003, when Princess Sayako was 34 years old, she met him again at a party hosted by her brother, Prince Fumihito. It turns out that Yashiki and her brother had been classmates since they were little kids in elementary school. Because of this friendship, Yashiki had often visited the Akasaka estate, which is where Princess Sayako was doing her bird research. She remembered him as a tall friend who always looked very serious. The next year, in 2004, Yashiki started working for the Tokyo Metropolitan Government. He said he changed jobs because he wanted to work for the public good. But some people also think he chose that job because it was in Tokyo. He lived with his mother in an apartment there, and a government job in the city meant he would not have to move away for work like he might have had to do at a big company like Toyota. His new job involved helping with city planning, urban development, and construction. The princess and Yashiki started out as just friends, but as they spent more time together, they began to fall in love. Her brother, Prince Fumihito, actually helped them out a lot. He offered his own home as a place for them to have dates, acting like a modern-day Cupid. By December 2004, they were officially engaged. When they announced their engagement, there was a big press conference. Because the emperor's daughter was getting married, there was huge media frenzy. At the press conference, Princess Sayako asked the media to be kind and not cause trouble for the man she loved. She talked about how they had met again and how seeing his warm smile had made her heart feel happy. She said that as they talked more and more, their thoughts naturally started to think about marriage. Yashiki also spoke, and he remembered asking her to marry him while they were having tea at Prince Fumihito's house. Princess Sayako said that her parents were very happy for her and congratulated her. She also said that she had known since she was a little girl that if she married a commoner, she would have to leave the imperial family. She admitted she was a little nervous about starting a new life because she didn't know exactly what it would be like, but she said it was not entirely unexpected. People who watched the press conference thought Princess Sayako spoke very gracefully, and that Yashiki seemed like a truly good and kind man. Yashiki Kuroda was not a prince, a nobleman, or a billionaire. He was just a normal, hardworking man with a modest salary from his office job. But despite this, Princess Sayako loved him and wanted to be his wife. Surprisingly, no one in the palace tried to stop them. However, there was a catch. If she married a commoner, she had to give up everything. She would have to leave the palace, lose her royal title, and give up all her wealth. This was just the rule. For Princess Sayako, this was not a big problem. She felt like she had been trapped inside the palace's fancy walls for too long. She chose love over royalty. In 2005, Princess Sayako, who was 35 years old, married her 39-year-old groom, Yashiki Kuroda. The wedding was held at the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo. For her wedding dress, the princess made a bold choice. Traditionally, royal brides wear a very heavy, fancy 12-layer kimono called the junihito. But Princess Sayako chose a simple, elegant white silk gown instead. She kept her jewelry simple too, just wearing a pearl necklace. The groom wore a morning suit, which is a fancy type of suit for formal daytime events. The emperor, the empress, and other royal family members were all there for the celebration, but it was a pretty quiet event compared to most royal weddings. The governor of Tokyo gave a toast at the reception. Only about 30 family members were at the ceremony, but there were 120 guests at the party. Even though the wedding was small, thousands of people lined the streets outside just to get a quick look at the bride and groom during their short 30-minute ride from the palace to the hotel. Less than 10,000 people signed a book of congratulations at the palace, and many Japanese people watched the event on TV but didn't feel very excited about it. But it was still a very important moment in history. Princess Nari, which was her new married name, became the very first non-aristocratic commoner to marry a princess since the imperial household law was changed in 1947. This meant she was truly a commoner now, just like the rest of us. When Princess Nari left the imperial family, she lost everything that came with it. She had to give up her palace, her large amounts of money, her fancy car, and all her servants. But she did not regret her choice at all. She had found something way more valuable, and that was true love. To get ready for her new, normal life, she had to prepare herself. She quit her job studying birds. She had to take driving lessons so she could drive herself around. She also had to practice doing normal things that most of us take for granted, like shopping at the grocery store and using a credit card. At first, the police gave her special protection, but as she settled into her new life, the security became less obvious. One of the biggest challenges for her was learning how to do all the housework. She had never had to clean, wash dishes, or do laundry before. In her new home, she had to do all of this by herself. It was a stark contrast to the easy, luxurious life she had known. It was a hard adjustment, but she remembered a story her mother once told her. The story was about a snail that complained about the heavy weight on its back until it saw other snails carrying their own homes. The snail realized that everyone has their own burdens to carry and that no one has a perfect life. This story gave her the strength to keep going. She did not give up, and she quickly learned how to handle her new life. So, how did her relationship with her family change after she married a commoner? Well, let's find out. Fast forward 18 years to today. Yashiki and Sayako, who is now a former princess, still make public appearances with the imperial family. They show up at formal events like receptions for visiting kings, queens, and presidents from other countries. The royal family welcomes them warmly to all their family events. In fact, they were even invited to the big ceremony in 2019 when Emperor Naruhito officially became the emperor. Sayako is also very close to all her nieces and nephews. One special moment came when her niece, Princess Aiko, had her coming-of-age ceremony. In Japan, when a princess turns 20, she gets her own special tiara. The tiaras are usually made for the princess and belong to the state. When a princess marries a commoner and loses her royal status, she has to give the tiara back. For example, when Princess Mako got married, she had to return hers. For Princess Aiko's coming of age, the palace decided not to make a new tiara because they thought it was not appropriate during the hardships of the COVID-19 pandemic. So, Princess Aiko borrowed her Aunt Sayako's tiara instead. This tiara was made for Sayako in 1989 when she turned 20. Because her parents, Emperor Akihito and Empress Michiko, had paid for it with their own private money, Sayako did not have to give it back when she got married. It was a very kind and loving gesture for her to lend it to her niece. Sayako and her husband have always kept a low profile. They are not flashy people. When they attended the emperor's ceremony, they drove an ordinary car to the palace, with Sayako sitting in the passenger seat next to her husband, just like any other couple. But soon after this, her life took another interesting turn. She went from being a housewife to having a very important religious job. In 2012, Sayako was given a very important role. She was appointed as the High Priestess of the Ise Grand Shrine. This is a very sacred Shinto shrine that is dedicated to Amaterasu, the sun goddess who is said to be the ancestor of the Japanese emperors. In this role, Sayako is the official representative of the emperor at the shrine. She performs important Shinto rituals on behalf of the royal family. For the first year, she helped her aunt, who was the chief priestess. The role of chief priestess is usually given to daughters of emperors. When Sayako puts on the traditional white jacket and red pants of a priestess, people say she looks very elegant and serious. At the New Year's poetry reading in 2014, her mother, Empress Michiko, wrote a poem about her. The poem talked about how Sayako left to go serve the gods at the new shrine. In 2017, her aunt retired, and Sayako was promoted to the top position. She is now the supreme priestess. Her life is very busy. She spends many weeks of every year away from Tokyo, living in Ise, which is the city where the shrine is located. In April 2019, right before her father retired as emperor, she was there when the imperial couple traveled to the shrine for a special ceremony to tell the goddess about the upcoming change. Around this time, her husband, Yashiki, also got a promotion at his job. He moved up from being a section head to a more important general position. The promotion came with a higher salary. After 15 years of marriage, they also finished paying off the loan on their home. Sayako, who was once a princess and is now a private citizen, has found a very calm and meaningful purpose in her life. She spends her time offering prayers for the Japanese people and for the imperial family. Even after all these years, the former princess and her husband still have a very strong and loving bond. They chose not to have any children of their own, so Sayako spends a lot of her time loving her nephews. She enjoys the simple things in life that many of us take for granted. Now, at the age of 53, with her husband Yashiki being 57, Sayako Kuroda has learned a very valuable lesson. She has come to understand that a life filled with love and companionship is far more valuable than any amount of money, fancy houses, or important titles. She chose to give up a life of extreme wealth and luxury to be with the man she loved. She proved that true happiness does not come from the things you own, but from the people you share your life with. Her story is a beautiful reminder that we all have to make choices in our lives. We have to decide what we value most. Do we want to focus on getting more money and a higher social status? Or do we want to seek out love and fulfillment in our relationships? The former princess has made her choice very clearly. She chose love, and it seems like she has found true and lasting happiness. What would you do? If you had the choice between a life of grand luxury and a life filled with love and contentment, which one would you pick? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our other amazing videos.